And so that's where we come in and have that high level accountability and give them the right tools and protocols so that they can reach those desired goals. And so, yeah, it's fascinating, just the human psychology. And I would say also I always talk about the key to fitness and the key to health and wellness is the F word. And that usually kind of perks up some ears.
Welcome back to the Dream Architect Life podcast. I have with me an extra special guest. This is somebody that you are going to feel her genuine nature, her true care for people through this conversation. So today I have with me Wendie Pett. For over 2 decades, Wendie has been motivating people to make fitness and good nutrition part of their daily routine. She teaches the balance of mind, body, and spirit through her Visibly Fit wellness program. Wendie has a nationally syndicated television program that airs each week on the NRB network, Liftable TV, WLCN, Faith Unveiled Network, and IBN Television. It has aired for over 9 years. Her television show also appears weekly on the Life Network for Women app. For over 8 years, she's been known as Coach Wendie on KTIS radio in the Twin Cities. So you may have heard her before with her featured healthy tips segments. Wendie is also a featured columnist in Veg World Magazine, The Christian View, Best Ever You, Refreshed Vegan Lifestyle, and Diet.com. Wendie has 2 podcasts, Visibly Fit, which actually won the Best Lifestyle Podcast 2021 by Spark Media. And now to get to her husband, she has her other one with her husband, Todd, Your Biggest Breakthrough. Wendie is a full-time business owner, a naturopathic doctor, wife, mother, author, speaker, TV host, advisory board member for Christian Women in Media, and part-time volunteer. Her business consists of whole food, plant-based wellness coaching, emotional healing, personal online training, fitness planning, educational and motivational speaking, and creating new products and tools to assist clients along their wellness journey. I will let Wendie share a little bit of her story, but she is a gem of a human. She has got so much value to add. Wendie, I am so grateful to have you here.
Well, I am honored. Thanks for having me. I need to shorten my bio.
I like actually, so I'm going to say this. I got to say this live for everybody to hear that I love your bio because I think it speaks to your level of commitment to your craft. There's some times where I think that bios can get very, very, very long-winded, but I think yours just encompasses everything that you have committed and been put on this earth to do. So I think it's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
So Wendie, I would love for you to share, I know that you did provide this in your bio, but I think it's better coming from you. I know that you had an injury. You had an injury that kind of led you and kicked you off on your journey. So I would love for you to just share a little bit more about that, kind of what led you to this point in time.
Sure. Well, I'm a Texas girl at heart, and I moved to Minnesota about 25 years ago. Was on a snowmobile because that's what they do in Minnesota, evidently, and was snowmobiling with some friends and was going about 55 miles an hour on the trail, but hit a big chunk of ice and got off of the trail. And as I was trying to regain composure, I hit a snow-covered culvert and went flying through the windshield of my sled, and I hit a tree going 55 miles an hour. And so I was unconscious, it seemed like, for a very long time. But as I came to and we went to the emergency, I found out that my clavicle was broke and tore some shoulder muscles and that kind of thing. But had the tree hit just a couple inches over, I may not be here today. And I just feel a sense of major gratitude that my time was not up yet. And anyway, it really literally propelled me to doing what I'm doing today, because I was able to do exercises that rehab my body naturally. The orthopedic surgeon that wanted to do surgery on my shoulder was shocked when I went back in and said, nope, look, I can move it just fine. And I just had to give a proper amount of time for healing, but he wanted to do this surgery immediately. And I said, no, let's just hold off. And so he was shocked, but anyway, but it's partly by the exercises that I teach and obviously how I feel my body for healing. So that's kind of the story, but I've always been a student of physical culture. I used to teach, aerobics when headbands and leg warmers were cool back in the day. And Yeah, I've just always been a real avid student of physical culture. So it's
Mm.
been a beautiful journey, and I love what I do.
Wendy, I think something that's so beautiful about your story and your background and your journey is that I mean you're truly on a mission to help people. And if you've been listening, if our listeners here, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you know that we talk actually quite a bit about health, wellness, longevity. We've had some great speakers on here, kind of guest star, just like Wendie is doing today. So, Wendie, one of the things I know you talk about is how people should be both fiscally and physically fit. So just talk a little bit about what you've seen, with your community, and kind of what you've noticed maybe as some common themes there.
Yeah. Well, I always talk about how your health is your true wealth. But I will also say that, some people get tripped up on the wealth part and then they don't take care of their health because they are in that kind of victim mindset and fear based mindset. And I'm sure that you've seen that from time to time as well. And it's just really disheartening and sad to see, especially with someone that may be dealing with a disease, or they're on, massive medication, which is leading to other issues, because it's just masking the problem and not getting to the root of what the issue is, and they continue down a cycle. But they would rather stay in that kind of pain and
Mm,
protocol rather than invest in themselves at times, because it is more of a mind and a spiritual component. It needs to be a shift in thinking, a shift in how you see yourself and your self-worth. And I think that that's what you do as well, Brittany, and that's what I do. I think that we are here to help bridge that gap and to help people really realize that they are worthy of taking care of themselves. They are worthy of investing in their wealth and their health, and the two collide. They really do. I've seen where that victim mindset of I don't have enough money to take care of myself or to go on this protocol that will actually solve the problem. They are surrounded by tons of stuff in their house, like they're hoarders, right? I mean, there's this what do you call it? It's just a I don't know the mindset, or it's not just victimhood. It's also that I'm never going to be enough or have enough. So
mm,
they constantly get the things that don't really matter, that make them feel good in the moment. Kind of like when people eat based on their emotions rather than fueling their body, and giving it what it truly deserves to be healthy and well. It's kind of that same mindset. And so the money and the health conversation can kind of collide and go together. It's
mm.
fascinating, really.
I think it's so interesting that you actually took us down that path, because one thing that we have seen, and we've talked about this before on the podcast here, that it doesn't matter necessarily how much wealth a person has accumulated. You could have somebody that has, 500,000, that has $1 million, that has $20 million in the bank, and they'll still ask the same question: do I have enough?
Mm,
And it's interesting because I think it is a little bit of that mindset where people tend to live oftentimes in kind of a scarcity mode where,
right.
we see people that err on the side of spending too little much more often than spending too much. And I think it kind of comes full circle to what you're talking about here in this integration of health and wealth, because if somebody spends their life saving their money, they've worked hard, they've been diligent, maybe they had a business and they sold it, and they've gone through this whole process of accumulating enough wealth in a financial sense to be able to support their means and maybe beyond their means. If they don't have their health, none of that matters.
Nope.
And I think we see it so often too, Wendie, where people put off taking care of themselves. You're like, well, I've got kids in college, or, well, I don't, I feel like that's selfish if I spend too much on myself. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about, where do you see people getting stuck when it comes to their health journey? Where do you see people maybe not investing in themselves in the right capacity?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there are several stuck points. One, you mentioned about, they think it's selfish to take care of
Mm,
themselves, but really it's selfless. And, we are called to care for our neighbors as ourselves, but we can't care for our neighbors fully if we aren't healthy and well ourselves. And so it's a shift in mindset and a shift in thinking and understanding that it's okay to put yourself first in the sense of, um, taking care of this body that houses the Holy Spirit, right? So
Mm,
it's important that we really are rising to that occasion and having a flip of the script there. But also, I think people are stuck in a kind of a fear based, um, I can't do this, just kind of this negative self talk, and it becomes their story. Like, oh well, I failed at this, I'm going to fail at this coming up too, and or maybe in your sense, it's like, you know what, I've never been able to save money, so I won't ever be able to. And
mm,
it's just this constant dialogue that it's a lie. It is a lie. And so how do we operate into the truth and rise up into a place of, no, you know what? I am worthy of taking care of my health and of my wealth. And what does that look like? And so sometimes it really does come into a play of where I kind of have to help paint the picture for my patient of and kind of future pace the scenario, like, okay, if you continue down the path you're on, this is where you're going to be. Is that what you desire? And so then I
mm,
tried to help them paint the picture of what health looks like and what their future will look like when they've got that health. And I know that that's what they really desire. They just have that limiting belief of thinking that they can't because they never have. And so
mm,
that's where we come in and have that high level accountability and give them the right tools and protocols so that they can reach those desired goals. And so, yeah, it's fascinating, just the human psychology. And I would say, also, I always talk about the key to fitness and the key to health and wellness is the F word. And that usually kind of perks up some ears. But it's all about forgiveness. It's about
yeah.
forgiving ourselves, and forgiving others, maybe for what they've done to us, said to us, or didn't say to us, or didn't do, whatever. We have this thing going on, this dialogue, and maybe this, we're hanging on to an old story, and yet we're able to change that if we just choose to have new emotions around the situation and to release the unhealthy emotions that are attached to the unhealthy weight or unhealthy living. And so I talk a lot about that.
You know, Wendie, I think it's so powerful, number one, especially when you start talking about, people really thinking about the stories in their lives and, changing the trajectory of that story and what that means and that self-forgiveness and forgiving
Yeah,
others. And I
it's
think, and this,
powerful.
it is powerful. And I think it spins a little bit into a kind of a great question that we tend to pose to people. And it's thinking about, your own moments of fear. And, I think a lot of times when you think about those stories and your life and reflecting back and thinking about maybe the stuff that's holding you back or reasons that you're not leaning into all that's possible for your future, it's some glimmer of fear or something in your life. So I want to get a little personal because we like for our listeners to really get to know who we're talking to here. So Wendie, what's a time in your life where you overcame fear and you really allowed it to serve you versus hold you back?
Wow. Okay, that is a good question and a personal one. Gosh. I mean, we all have fear on some levels, right? So I
Mhm.
would say there's been multiple occasions, and I think sometimes fear can still creep up. And I have a quicker bounce back rate because of the way I live and the way I think today. But
Mm,
gosh, I don't know. I think it may be a fear of rejection from a childhood scenario that I remember, and so sometimes I've that little thing will something will trigger it, and I'm like, oh, I recognize what's going on, and it's a
mm,
lie. But sometimes we get caught up in that kind of stuff too, rejection or abandonment or whatever the case may be, and that can really trip us up and not propel us to our next steps. But there's been and not with my family, they didn't reject me. I have a wonderful family. I just think of certain moments, whether it was a peer group or
mm,
kids on the playground or whatever. I remember this as a young kid.
mm. And I think, Wendie, it's interesting because as much as we all want to, and you have children, so you know how this goes. It's like we want them to learn from our examples. We want them to not maybe repeat some of the big whoops moments in our lives or the struggles or some of the things that we face that we want to protect them from.
Right.
So that's where I liken, some of these stories of, overcoming fear or, how you've helped serve people or how you've kind of helped people lean into possibility. I think it's so important for listeners to hear examples to realize they're not alone. So this kind of pivots me to the next topic here. And it's, when you think about dreaming big and inspiring people to lean into possibility and realize all that's possible in their life, what are some really cool stories or things that you've seen and ways that you've helped people to do that?
Yeah, another great question because I love that. I mean, you call yourself a dream architect, and you guys wrote a book called Dream Architect. I mean, I say you call yourself. I don't know. I'm calling you a dream architect, but
We'll own it. We'll take it.
well, just take it. But I think that that's kind of what I do as well with my patients is I help them catch the vision. Because sometimes they don't really even have it themselves. We do vision boards and start to get them to unpack what they really desire and want. And sometimes they just don't know, so they need that friendly guidance and support and cheerleader and all the things to help them see what is possible. And I know that that's what you guys do too, which is fantastic. But even in their health and wellness, like they don't see it's possible. And for instance, oh my goodness, I have a client right now that is going to run her first 5K next week.
Oh,
And this is a big deal for her. Like she couldn't even run a block, and now she's running a 5K. And so that may not seem like a big thing for some of the listeners, but for her it's a big deal. And so we painted the picture, and man, she is just so stoked. I'm so excited. She's in her 60s, and she never thought she would. And so these are the things that can become reality when you start taking small little bite-sized goals at a time and start to really conquer and layer those healthy habits, and you get stronger, you get better, you get more confidence, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I'm about to run a 5K. And
mm,
it's just amazing. So I know that that's what y'all do too. You start to help your clients see those small little goals that they can make, and then all of a sudden they are at that big dream. And that's what I want for people too in their health and wellness space.
mm. Wendie, well, for those listening, I was actually on Wendie's podcast too. So we'll make sure we direct you to that because she has a
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful podcast. But we were talking about helping people to, even know where to start with dreaming big, right? So I talked about how one of the things or one of the questions that we like to ask is if you could only accomplish one more thing in your lifetime, what would that be and why? And we've had people ask us before why we asked that question too. And it really comes down to the core of understanding where a person's values lie. So I would love for you to talk a little bit, Wendie, on where do you or how do you define value alignment for yourself, but also as you help people creating these vision boards and kind of going back to the basics in life and really rediscovering what's important to them?
Yeah, that's another great question. You're full of them.
No.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, I think about my own uh, value system, and when I kind of peel back the layers of the onion, it's all about family. Like I want
Mm,
to spend some QT time, quality time with my family, and go on maybe a trip a year. And I mean, we haven't done that. Like we
mm,
really I'm talking about like with my parents and my son and my sister and her kids and my husband's kids. I would love that. That would be
mm,
so amazing. So I see a lot of similar kind of deep rooted whys with my patients as far as what really drives them to reach their goals, and it's usually family. It's usually
mm,
I don't want to be a burden for my kids, because my parents or my mom was a burden for me because of her health, or I want to be able to get on the floor and play with my kids or my grandkids, or run around at the park. And it's not like some big thing. It's like these simple but beautiful moments that is the deep rooted why. And so
mm.
I see that being a similar kind of thread throughout.
Mm. It's so interesting because when you bring up family and that being such a core driver, the same thing that we see too. I mean, we'll have conversations with clients, with prospective clients, and we'll talk about, what it is they dream about. And we always say, like, go back to when you were a kid and anything was possible. And I know, Wendie, I shared with you, like, my son, and I think it's actually on his like back to school, those cute little boards that all of us crazy moms do. I think he literally put he wants to be an elephant when he's older. And I'm like, you know what, buddy? I don't know how it's going to work out, but whatever. That's exciting. So I think, like, if you think about how we approach dreaming big as children and how we approach it as adults, there's such a massive gap.
Yeah.
Because if I were to speak into the world, like what my biggest, craziest, most audacious dream is, there's people out there that are going to be like, that's nuts. That's crazy. That's so far out of reach. How the heck are you going to do that? That's not even possible. So I think there's kind of that end of the spectrum. But then we also talk about the power of putting yourself in front of great people who lift you up, who support you, who, are going to help you pursue your dreams, from the big stuff to the little stuff. So whether it's, spending time with your family and going fishing, or just being together in a vacation setting, or maybe it's a staycation where you're just all at home and you're loving up on each other and you're just enjoying that time. I think that people just need to define what's important to them and what that dreaming big means. So, Wendie, I would love for you to talk, maybe give a personal example or something here about what dreaming big really means to you personally.
Mm. Dreaming big to me personally really means it's kind of coming from a selfish kind of way, and you'll get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I believe that people need to dream big, because if you're not dreaming big, then you're not, in my opinion, really fulfilling your calling and purpose here on earth. And therefore, we all suffer. Okay. So, from a selfish standpoint, I want you to dream big. I want you to give it your all. I want you to be your healthiest, best self. I want you to create an abundance of wealth so you can give and do. And I mean, yeah, because when we all rise up in that manner, then we all get to enjoy it. We all get
Mm.
to reap the benefits. And so I feel like if we're not stepping into the space that really God has called us into, and that's, again, stewarding our finances well, and our health well, and our relationships well, then there's kind of a weak link, so to speak. And
Mm.
so that's what dreaming big means to me. It means that we all are going to be in a better world when we're dreaming big together.
I absolutely love that. And it's interesting too, because there can be like limiting beliefs or blocks that actually stop people from accumulating wealth.
Yeah.
So we've been very fortunate that we do work with wealthy individuals at Sweet Financial. But it's interesting because we've had, I've shared this with you before, Wendie, but pretty much anybody that calls our office, whether we are the best fit for you or not, we are going to leave you with something of value. Like, it is our mission to be helpful to anybody that we encounter. And there can just be these blocks where people feel like they're not deserving enough. They're not, talented enough. They're not, whatever, insert whatever descriptive word, enough to be able to reach those goals, reach those dreams, and really lean into, all that's possible for them, and what they're put on this earth to do and to create. So I think it's so great that help people in that capacity to kind of minimize or limit those beliefs that they might have preconceived around themselves. And it's interesting too. I mean, people can accomplish a whole lot and still feel like it's not enough. But my point, and I scrolled a little bit there, but my point is that, we've seen so many amazing examples where people have built enough wealth to support what they want in their life. And it allows them to give back in really massive ways and contribute to charities that call on their heart, or organizations that call on their heart. And that is just so amazing to see them feel so fulfilled in being able to give back in that capacity. So I think that's so powerful. And it's such a testament to, what being committed to your future and what's meaningful to you really means.
Yeah, it's
So,
good.
Wendie, I would love for you to talk a little bit about, and you can go as far into the weeds in this as you want, but just talk about some of your guiding principles and how you have helped people, and what that means, what that does for people.
Yeah. So We really help people with the proper tools. There's a lot of tools out there, right? Like you could YouTube anything today and find out an answer to a question, but we have it in a cohesive collective place, meaning nutrition. And as a naturopath, I'm all about the holistic approach, right? So it's mind, body, spirit, emotions, but there's nutrition, there's exercise. So I talked earlier about, or you did, talking about the injury I had on the snowmobile. Well, I rehab my shoulder by doing the exercises I teach today. And
Mm,
so it's just using your body as your gym. It's a lot of moving isometrics. There's no equipment whatsoever. It's mind muscle connection. It doesn't put wear and tear on your joints, tendons, and ligaments, but it helps to build muscle and release unhealthy, unwanted fat. And that's what we want. So that's part of the equation. We have coaching, knowledge, training modules, because it's great to be told, yeah, do this, do that, but it won't really stick unless you have the knowledge of understanding why don't do this or do that. And so I
mm,
really want people to be empowered with knowledge and to hopefully to allow that to be embossed in their thinking and in their heart of, okay, this is why I'm not going to choose to eat this today because it does this and this to my body. I'm going to choose this instead. So anyway, education tools, and then coaching, live coaching as well every week. And it's just a powerful high level accountability program. And I think a lot of times, you know, there's some great programs out there, but the accountability is really the key.
mm,
If it's just too easy to say, I've got this, and then you just really don't. And sometimes people don't understand that it's not just about nutrition and exercise. In fact, it's so much more, as we were talking about the forgiveness piece. So we dive in deep for with some mindset exercises, some spiritual components. We dive into some emotional exercises, because our bodies and our minds really do memorize certain emotions and certain ways in which we are acting or not acting. And so I really want to help to unravel that puzzle and to help rewire the brain with new neurons that wire and fire together for new healthy habits. And so that's what we do. And I love seeing lives change. I love kind of the lights go on and having the aha moments, and getting people to have confidence and how they can take care of themselves and showing up in their life in a totally different way. Like I'm talking, in their families, in their community. It's like, whoa, the ripple effect. When you start taking care of yourself, the ripple effect is unbelievable. I mean, people are watching. More is caught than taught. You don't have to say a word of what you're doing, but
mm.
people are watching, and there is a massive ripple effect. And I love seeing that play out. Like I just get super charged up about that,
Mm.
as you can
Well,
tell.
seriously, I was just going to say that for those listening and not actually watching the video right now, like Wendie's whole face lit up when she was talking about that. So I'm like watching you going, she lives this, she loves this. Wendie, I love everything you do. And one thing I do want to pull out, because so we've had, special guests from different aspects of health, either come onto the podcast or do some of the Sweet Financial Live events, which we're doing with you as well. And one of the questions that comes up quite a bit is, well, is it too late? Or am I too old to start this? I mean, it's all of the am I too that starts out those conversations. So I would love for you to just touch a little bit on the person that maybe feels like it's too late, and then maybe tie that into how you would approach maybe different stages of life when it comes to people's capabilities, their bodies, all those good things.
Yeah. Well, I would ask the question back, from you saying, am I too old? Am I too far gone? My question would be, are you?
Mm,
Because that's a mindset shift. And if
mm,
you think you are, then you are. Right. So that's got to be something that we attack immediately. No, you're
yeah.
not too old. You're not too far gone. I've had, people in their 70s and 80s I've worked with. Like, you're not. It doesn't matter. It's really just a mindset shift. And so I've had people get off medication and reversing of disease. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do in just a short amount of time. My program is 7 weeks, but we work a little bit longer than that as we go through the coaching. But in 7 weeks, people have gotten off blood pressure meds, cholesterol medication, reverse
Wow.
type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's powerful. I had a gal that had, this is a younger gal, but she had endometriosis for 12 years. And a doctor said she wouldn't be able to get pregnant. And she was on all kinds of pain medication. After 2 weeks, actually, it was about a week and a half, she was off of her pain meds and no longer dealing with the endometriosis issues. And she now has a 1-year-old baby girl. And
Oh.
so just the power of how our bodies are meant to be operating in a healed capacity. So we have to change our mindset around that. But yeah, I think really, no, you're not too old. You're not too far gone. And we work with every individual, differently. And yet it's still similar tools because it is whole food plant-based. It is all about using your body as your gym, but the coaching may be a little bit different because we all have different places where we've come from, right? And places that we need to be healed from. And so that's where the personalization kind of comes from too.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely amazing. And I love the flip on the question of coming back and saying, well, are you? Because again, it's just like so many different things we've talked about. We can be our own worst enemy. We can get on our own way. And really, Brian loves this particular term about how our only limitation is really just the 6 inches between our ears.
True.
And we make up our minds on something, and that's where true progress can stop. So I love your holistic approach. When we talk to clients about just what they're interested in, what's kind of something that you're paying attention to right now, the health topic comes up time and time and time again, especially once people kind of get to that retirement chapter where they're like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to just be put out to pasture. I'm not just going to go sit and, wait for the sun to set, basically. They want to be active and they want to have this
Travel.
next chapter be exciting and fulfilled and spent with loved ones. Those are all things that are so meaningful. So because we have such an interest in health, this is why we keep bringing this topic back to the table for our audience, because wealth and health are so intermingled. So Wendie, if people want to, get in touch with you, want to talk to you about how you might be able to help them, they love the message that they've heard today, how can they do that?
They can just go to my website, which is wendiepett.com, and that's WENDIEPETT.com. And I'm on social media. I'm accessible. So just reach out and I'd love to assist you. And because I'm all about helping people get the chronic inflammation out of their body, I do have a free green drink that would love to give you. If you go to liveimmune.com, you can download that recipe for you. And yeah, that's what I would give you.
Well, that is such an awesome gift. We will make sure that's included in the show notes too for anybody listening, tuning in. So my final question that I like to ask every single guest we have on the show is, what haven't I asked you that I should have?
What haven't you asked me? Ooh, I don't know. Wow. That's a tough one. I've never had that question.
That's why I love asking it.
I mean, I think you covered it all. Yeah, I don't know. You're a great interviewer, and I think we covered it all. So I'll probably think of something, as I rest my head down tonight, like, oh, she should have asked me this. But right now, I think we're good.
Oh, that's so good. And, I think it's a perfect setup to say, I think we should have this conversation again on the podcast down the road. Wendie, I just know that you are going to continue putting such great value out into the world. And I personally am so excited to see all the impact you continue to make and all the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Dream Architect Life podcast. Be sure to share this with a friend, somebody that would want to or need to hear this message. Also, be sure to like and subscribe so that you're the first to know anytime a new episode drops. We'll be right back here with you in the next episode.